Hello everyone, it's Religious Fanboy here again, and today we are discussing Jonah chapter 1, verses 11 through 17. The sea was getting rougher and rougher, so they asked him, "What should we do to you to make the sea calm down for us?" "Pick me up and throw me into the sea," he replied, "and it will become calm. I know that it is my fault that the great storm has come upon you." Instead, the men did their best to row back to land, but they could not, for the sea grew even wilder than before. Then they cried out to the Lord, "Please, Lord, do not let us die for taking this man's life. Do not hold us accountable for killing an innocent man. For you, Lord, have done as you pleased." Then they took Jonah and threw him overboard, and the raging sea grew calm. At this the men greatly feared the Lord, and they offered a sacrifice to the Lord and made vows to him. Now the Lord provided a huge fish to swallow Jonah, and Jonah was in the belly of the fish for 3 days and 3 nights. To briefly summarize what has happened in the story so far, Jonah is a prophet. This book is part of the section of the Bible referred to as minor prophets. And Jonah was given the task of sending a message on God's behalf to the people of Nineveh. But because of Jonah's own hatred and dislike towards the people of Nineveh, he attempted to take a boat to sail to Tarshish in order to try to run from God and disobey what God had asked him to do. And because of this, God used his control over the chaotic nature of the oceans and water in order to prevent them from successfully sailing to Tarshish. And we see in this chapter the beginning of a pattern in this book where people that Jonah interact with coming to know God despite Jonah's actions. We see that in this passage with the crewmen and other people on the boat turning to God after the seas had calmed. I'm going to move down to our talking points. Our first talking point is that God will sometimes call us to do something scary. We see this primarily in this text in regards to the decision of the crewmen and what God was wanting them to do versus what they wanted to do. You see, up until they were unsuccessful in their efforts to paddle back to land, they were willing to try anything in order to avoid what they had thought would be killing an innocent man. And we see this fear expressed through the words they say when they cry out to God in this text. And then our second talking point is that God will sometimes close doors in order to throw wrenches in our plans and to encourage us to do what God is calling us to do. We see this primarily in the way in which the water reacts to the crew attempting to paddle back to land after they were told to throw Jonah into the water. And then our third and final talking point is that God answers our prayers in unexpected ways. We see this primarily in the way in which Jonah is protected from drowning, and that is through God sending a giant fish to swallow Jonah. We will see this further expanded upon next episode when we talk about the prayer that Jonah prays while in the belly of the fish. Our first discussion question, as always, is what stood out to you from this passage of scripture and from these talking points? Our second discussion question is what is something scary that prevents you from doing what God calls you to do? And our third and final discussion question is what was the time when God answered your prayer in an unexpected way? And with that being said, may God be with you, and see you next time. Bye.